What's up, everybody? I am back with a new movie review. This one came out a couple years ago, but I was hesitant on reviewing it last year because, from what I've heard, this had like some not so great reviews. Well, I'll get into it, but it definitely kind of influenced my decision on watching it in a hurry. But it's Resident Evil Death Island, which I think was released on Netflix. I could be wrong, but yeah, uh, this movie is set right after Resident Evil 6 and Vendetta, which has it's kind of like the Avengers of Resident Evil, pretty much, with all the big characters that we are familiar with. Uh, Leon S. Kennedy, with Matthew Mercer reprising his voice role for the character, which I think Leon Kennedy is everybody's fan favorite. I love Leon Kennedy. He is amazing. Of course, I love Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. Claire Redfield, Jill Valentine, Rebecca Chambers. We all love them. Hunnigan, it's just like it's just that Leon, probably because Resident Evil 4 was so big, uh, even with the remake, that voice mixed with that character and how well written everything is with that character and everything around him really cemented him being like the fan favorite. As a matter of fact, Resident Evil 6, isn't great, but everybody's in the agreement that the Leon part was the best part. I'm not sure what happened behind the scenes, or there are certain choices that was definitely made that was poor choices. But what they did get right was Leon's part. And I think that's partly why it, like, if it had like 2 out of 5 stars, that second star was mostly because of Leon. We got Nicole Tompkins as Jill Valentine, Kevin Dorman as Chris Redfield, Stephanie Penicello as Claire Redfield. Erin Cahill reprises her role as Rebecca Chambers. So there's only 2 people who reprises their roles from these iconic characters, which is a shame. I'm not sure why they couldn't get, because especially when it comes to Chris, don't know why you could not get the same actor from Resident Evil 5 and 6. Maybe like other responsibilities that kind of couldn't he couldn't tear away from to do this project. Probably could have helped. Damon Mills as Dylan Blake, the villain of the film, and Christina V as Maria Gomez, the henchwoman of Dylan. Sally Selfrity reprises her role as Ingrid Hunnigan. Frank Todaro as Anthony Taylor, and Lucian Dodge as JJ. I love how, I do love this 3D style. Crap. What's that called? They wear those suits with the balls on them. Crap. It starts with an M, doesn't it? Mock. No. You know what I'm talking about. Crap. What is it? Motion capture. I knew it started with an M. Motion capture. I think that's I personally think that was a good way to go. I don't think anybody has like a grievance with the animation design they chose to go with. I think it's smart because we've been, there's like that style of graphics that we come to get used with when it comes to Resident Evil. I kind of wish they brought in the writers of Resident Evil 4, or at the very least the writers of Resident Evil 5, to write this, because the writer in this has not written for Resident Evil in the past. Not one of them. And I think that probably hurt this movie more, because although it wasn't awful, it wasn't crap like I was led to believe, but wasn't great either. Some of the line dialogues wasn't great. There's a few spots here and there that I thought was good, especially when it comes around Leon Kennedy, because he needs to be a bit of a smart aleck, and you get a little bit with that. Because he definitely added like the bit of levity in this film. But I also think they did a great job of balancing all the A-list Resident Evil characters. However, the villain, mediocre. But anyway, the movie opens up, in the running parallel with the, what's going on when like the first outbreak in Raccoon City really pops off. There's a group of soldiers from the Umbrella Corporation, private military called Unit 6, comes in to try to handle the situation, or at least help with high-ranking Umbrella Corp people to get them evacuated, because they took priority. Nobody else, anybody who tries to interfere, eliminate them on sight. If they are infected or appear bitten, eliminate them on sight, and the extraction helicopter will come to get the crew. But I love this kind of like, because we don't need like to know they're Avengers. I'm pretty sure there's like, if they do like a comic or something like that, you'll see what transpired. But they kind of do a hard cut as they found some shelter, and all but two, JJ and Dylan, have been bitten or scratched, or one of them is straight up dead. JJ calls for help for the extraction, but since they got hired by Umbrella, that corporation don't give a lick, and they were the primary cause of the outbreak anyway, if you know your Resident Evil history. And they tell them they're not picking you guys up until you eliminate anybody bitten or infected. So JJ is like, you know what, I'm going to eliminate them because I want to get out. I want to get out of here. But Dylan's like, no, there are people. We're not going to take them out. Maybe there's a cure, blah, blah, blah. You know how the typical zombie outbreak type of stories go. There's always that kind of, they could be helped, or, maybe there's a cure. Maybe. Don't do it. And of course, immediately they all start to turn. JJ starts annihilating all of them. And then you get a hard cut to the present, where you see like an older Dylan walking on a cane, who's pretty much clearly traumatized. Then we see like Leon, who is under orders to find this man named Antonio, who's been like selling secrets to foreign enemies, and he's under orders to bring him in. Of course, he tries to, but then gets he gets into like a motorcycle street fight, gunfight with this mysterious woman. And no, it's not Ada Wong this time, but it could just as easily have been. However, he gets stopped, and of course, he loses the target. Then we see another scene, Jill, who is part of the mission with Chris Redfield, and normally, like I remember what I was going to say earlier about the balancing of the characters. Normally, in stories like this, there's always like only a two-partner thing in a lot of Resident Evil stuff. Aside from Resident Evil 4, where you're partnered with Ashley, but she doesn't really do much except help you with puzzles. Here, you got like practically like the main headliners of the franchises. And we got Jill here, still, you know, haven't gotten over the events of Resident Evil 5 being the puppet of Albert Wesker. They take down the zombified man after, I guess, he ended up killing his wife. And back at HQ, Rebecca states to Chris that he needs to do something about Jill because, you know, she hasn't taken some time off to kind of like get her head straight. She just charges right into the fray. And of course she's not listening to Chris. Because, you know, because she was fully conscious while under the mind control of Wesker. So she did a lot of horrible stuff that she's having a tough time trying to get over. But they get called on the mission that there's 12 deaths linked to an advanced form of the T virus, along with like Claire, who just finished dealing with like finding out some orca got beached with, you know, signs of, you know, infection and, you know, some bites. They, you know, find out that the 12 deaths of the some random people, not so seemingly random, they all recently visited Alcatraz Island, which is like a tourist place. So they go there undercover as tourists, and right then and there, Dylan forcing Antonio's hand into sending out these mosquito-like drones that start infecting definitely random people, and all of a sudden an outbreak happens. Chris, Jill, and Claire all take out the tourists and the security there, because, and it does feel somewhat like the video game here. They all, only difference is that it'd be kind of cool if they would have seen, one of them is seen picking up some kind of herb they found somewhere, or seeing them typing on a typewriter or something like that. You know, kind of harken to like the game that you typically deal with herbs and the typewriter save mechanic. I don't know. I would have included that personally, because that, you know, that is like a staple of Resident Evil. Anyway, they're the only three left, and they come across Antonio using like a different name, and Chris and Claire gets infected and passes out, while Antonio gets caught by the hench lady, Maria. Jill gets separated from the group and she bumps into Leon, who is following the trail here to find Antonio. And of course, you get to see, because they, surprise each other, and you see them like do like their hand-to-hand combat, fairly evenly match. Well, I think Leon probably will got the leg up eventually, but it kind of harkens to the moment where Leon and Chris surprise each other in Resident Evil 6. And that was, honestly, I still remember that. That was the hook for Resident Evil 6 trailer. That, oh my god, we got like a game where we got Leon and Chris together, and you see them like kind of like not like a sparring, but they kind of surprise each other. They didn't know who each other were until they hold each other at gunpoint. And, it's like, oh, it's you. But he's just like, oh my god, Leon and Chris, very good hand-to-hand combatants. It's just Chris is a little bit bulkier than Leon. But we get to see Jill and Leon in a movie together, because they've never been seen together in any other form of Resident Evil up until this point. That was like, oh my god, that is a big deal. It's a very big deal. I wish it was a little bit better writing, but still a big deal. And they team up to follow the trail, which leads them into a console room where on the intercom Dylan tells them he has the target, Antonio, as well as Chris and Claire. So they go up and meet up with Dylan, and of course this dude gone through severe trauma with what he had to do, because you see like a flashback of him, getting shot in the leg by his partner JJ, who just wanted to get out of there, and he's willing to take out his own guy because but he's already bitten. And of course the guy on the intercom, Umbrella Stooge, tells like, I ain't sending the chopper to come pick you up until you eliminate everybody bitten. So a fight ensues. Dylan was forced to actually bash his best friend skull in, which represents by him, because he has to walk on a cane. He bangs on his cane on the ground, and it's like, he's forcing himself to remember. Matter of fact, he's so traumatized, he has this revolver and he puts one bullet in, and he rotates it to see if it goes off, because he doesn't care about his own life at this point. And then he proceeds, because since he worked for Umbrella, well, at least hired by Umbrella, he was like, kind of like a paramilitary soldier, not too different from the line of work that the heroes are from. And he did his research about each and every one of them and all their past and what they, kind of went through, or at least those that he managed to scrounge up. And it's like, Chris, man, every mission you go in with a team, you always seem to be the only one surviving, and everybody else always seems to be dead. He chews out Rebecca. I can't remember verbatim what he says to each and every one of them, but he's kind of chews it out, expresses like all the stuff that they've been through, that you lost people. I lost people. I really wish it was handled better here, because he could have been like an amazing villain, but it seems very lackluster in my opinion, because like as he's telling them about their pain, and how come they don't understand him, because I guess the mark of a good hero is that despite the trauma and the pain, they managed to try to rise above it and choose a path of righteousness. But I kind of wish there was like, he expressed to them, because he doesn't really tell them his, you don't have to go this full diatribe about his origin story, but it tells him like, I was under orders by Umbrella. Technically did, but he didn't really. I kind of wish it was like some mutual understanding, especially from somebody like Chris. It's like, look, man, look, because Jill kind of just calls him out his name, but it's just like kind of wish it was like a bit of understanding. It's like, look, man, look, like, we do understand, okay? We originally have been sent on missions that, you know, under false pretenses by horrible people. That's why we eventually work for righteous organizations, but at the same time, we make our own call. You know, it's a shame that you have to do that to your partner, but you could have chose something different. We made, at the end of the day, we made the better choice. It doesn't necessarily mean that we, you know, live with it well, but we can still, to some degree, sleep at night because we didn't make the more demonic choice. I kind of wish there was like a little bit of that between everybody, but instead they kind of like treat him as trivial, like he didn't, like, you know, went through something similar as them. He's kind of like the flip side of the other coin to all of them. Matter of fact, he could have been, if there was like if each one of those guys were in their own particular story and he was the villain, he could have easily been like the flip side to any one of their coins. One second. Sorry, business. Anyway, he ends up shooting Antonio in the gut, and he infects Leon, and he tells Jill that I chose you to be the one that's gonna live through this, Jill, because I want you to feel the same pain as I have felt having to watch your friends and partners die on your watch. So, thanks to Leon setting off a flashbang, allowing Jill to make a quick escape, Rebecca, who synthesized a cure to this advanced form of the T virus, which is, you know, she comes rolling in with some soldiers from the BSAA, but they all immediately get like eaten up by this giant like infected shark thing, and it's kind of like, well, y'all were pointless. But I guess not totally pointless. One of them managed to, while he was being eaten alive, managed to let off some explosives inside this creature's mouth and killing it. So I guess it wasn't a total loss. But she making it inside, meets up with Jill. She tells her where to find the others. She cures them, and they all make it to like the central command station area. Leon takes on Maria, who blames him for the death of her father, who was some bad guy in a previous installment of Resident Evil, probably like a movie or something. And she, of course, enhanced in terms of superhuman ability, but in like a cool, brutal fight, Leon managed to impale her on a pipe and killing her, while Claire and Rebecca take over the drones. And instead of neutralizing them immediately, they took command over it. Because, as they show up, this is like an amazing sight, honestly. It's probably like the highlight of the entire film, where you get Jill, Leon, Chris, Claire, and Rebecca all armored up, got all these types of different weapons that you clearly would have gotten in a game. And they start like rocket launchers, like, rail laser guns, and all these different assault rifles, all these different pistols, shotguns. I kind of wish they had like a sniper too, but whatever. A Magnum. It's like, oh my god, this is dope. Even on like a vehicle with a assault rifle inside, they shoot at Dylan, who turns into this big BOW, and it's just got a cool scene, very cool scene, and all these like top-notch characters that we love over the years in Resident Evil franchise, together on, because despite this not doing as well as we kind of hoped, it's still like a big deal just to get all these guys together in one sitting, because you will never get this in a video game. Well, you say that because Resident Evil 6 tried to some degree, but wasn't properly balanced, wasn't, well, I don't say it wasn't balanced, but it wasn't smartly written and handled all that well. But it could be done. At least they try to lay like some level of a groundwork of a possibility that in the future you can try to get all these characters that we love together. Like get Claire and Rebecca in one segment, Jill and Chris in one segment, and Leon and well, I don't know who the partner. I guess Leon could probably be by himself or something. I guess because there's only 5 of them. Unless you want to bring back Wesker's kid, I forgot his name. Doggone it. Crap, what is it? Jake Mueller. You could bring back Jake Mueller. Jake Mueller wasn't terrible. Introducing like a illegitimate kid of Albert Wesker. You could bring him back and just have them 6, in one game with 2 partners per each. It could be done, but you can't, because like Resident Evil 4 remake, you brought back the horror, but you had like a good amount of action. I think a lot of people's problem with this film is it seems like more action than actual like horror aspect of it. But I think Resident Evil 4 remake really nice job of not only bringing back horror elements, but it didn't lose the cool part when it comes to like a dash of action. But they managed to send all the mosquitoes infecting the BOW, keeping it from escaping the chambers, and killing it once and for all. HQ sends like a helicopter to come pick them up, and they walk away, as heroes into the sunrise. And that was Resident Evil Death Island. The writing, in some parts wasn't all that good. The villain was definitely lackluster. I think you should have gotten somebody from, in my personal opinion, the writers of Resident Evil 4, or at the very least Resident Evil 5, to come to do the writing for this film, because they would have given the much needed punch it need to feel like a true Resident Evil film. But all in all, I still had an amazing time. It still looked a good watch. Some might disagree. Like I said, when it came out, people were not happy. But I think like a decent enough time kind of went by. I'm pretty sure if they look at it now, they won't feel as agitated. But I think it's more so the true Resident Evil fans, the true blue fans, diehards, they vehemently hate this film. I love and respect the Resident Evil franchise. 4 is still my ultimate favorite. So is the remake of 4. Uh, uh, but yeah, I think the writing, who they chose as the writer for this. Uh, I'm pretty sure he's a good writer for other stuff he's done, but for Resident Evil, it's not saying he doesn't know any lore, but I think for a Resident Evil film, you needed somebody who's written Resident Evil before, who has some history and good recommendations with that history. Anyway, leave a comment below. Let me know what was your favorite part of this film and what's your opinion on it. And I will see you guys playing by ear because I'm gonna be busy on a set, so I might not be able to come in to stream anything. If I do, it's probably gonna be for a little bit. But if not, then I'll just probably see you guys maybe Sunday. But in any case, leave a comment below and I will see you guys later. Peace.